like to call the Board of Public Works meeting of November 1st, 2016 to order. First thing is to ask if anybody is recording this other than LCAT.
Shirley Tancredi for the minutes.
Thank you, Shirley. First on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2016 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of October 5th.
I second the motion for October 5th.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next we need to approve the minutes of October 17th, 2016.
So moved.
I second the motion for October 17th.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, move right along to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. The first item I have now, we're getting to the end of the month, or gotten to the end of the month, is to go through our budget status for this month. We are in week number 17, which means we're 32.6% of the way through the year, almost a third of the way through the year. The trends are all very similar to what we've seen in the past. Highways looking good from a labor and expense standpoint. Building maintenance is looking great from a salary standpoint. As we've talked about in the past, we did a lot of work at the schools, particularly over the summertime. So we're seeing that our expenses appear to be high, but it's the typical expenditures that we see in the summertime, and then we slow down the expenditures quite a bit as we get through the year. I believe Mr. Fenney's already got the word out to the school department right now that we're doing essential repairs only at this point in order to, because we've essentially expended the monies that we have available for some of the discretionary type improvements that we might make. Snow and ice, we have a small item on there for some material. Actually, I think that was for, there's a weather service that we've subscribed to this year to give it a try to see if we get some additional information during the wintertime, and I think that was the expenditure that you see there. We will, and Roy can talk about this in a few minutes, but we will next month start to see some bills for salt. And we'll see a significant bump in that line item next month.
I saw the caravan of trucks coming in the other day. It was just one load after another. They were lined up, dumping it.
The energy budget, I highlighted those lines because I wanted to spend a little time explaining that. I talked in previous months that we were seeing on the electricity budget a bit higher than we had been in previous years. Still on budget, but there was a bit higher expenditure. I've tracked. Part of that is down to, again, we had high AC usage of the summer with the temperatures that we had. Part of it is due to the increase in the rates that started to hit us about this time last year. And then part of it actually is due to the way that the accounting department for many years has handled end of the year bills. What they do, because our June bills typically get received in July. What they do is they encumber monies out of fiscal 16 and shift those monies into fiscal 17. So in effect, they increase the fiscal 17 budget, decrease the fiscal 16 budget in order to pay the fiscal 16 bills in fiscal 17. So on paper right now, the highlighted items you see here are what appears to be an increased budget, but that was essentially monies moved from fiscal 16 to fiscal 17 to pay fiscal 16 bills that were received in July for fiscal 16. One thing that happened for the first time in fiscal 17 was we encumbered the solar net metering credits, and that was about a $50,000 encumbrance for credits that we purchased in June that we paid in July, and that accounts for the majority of the difference that we saw in the expenditures to date this year versus last year, and that we didn't invest in those credits early in the year. We'll be seeing the return on those investments as we now apply them to bills throughout the year. But that was really a timing issue where we had a new line item, we had a new purchase that was different than what we had in the previous years. Our waste disposal budget is trending. I'm actually very pleased with where we are there. We're right about where we want to be at this time of year, particularly as we get into the winter months, and now we're going to be cutting down not only on the labor expended, but the expenses will typically tend to start dropping off a little bit as we get to the 1 day a week versus 2 day a week schedule, which will carry at least through the end of November, but typically it's the end of November, beginning of December, depending on weather conditions is when we make the decision to cut back from 2 days a week to 1 day a week. Sewer budget is trending well. The water budget is trending well. The Big difference we've talked about previously in water expenditures was we benefited significantly with a credit from Springfield Water and Sewer Commission last year that kept our expenses much lower than they were budgeted. That credit we didn't receive this year, so our expenses are now much more where we typically would see them at this time of year. That was sort of a one-time benefit to us last year. So I think budget-wise, we're exactly where we'd like to be.
And you're only showing us the expenses, right, on water, but our revenue is up.
Our revenue, and I've asked the town accountant to get me a audited statement for the end of fiscal 16 for revenue. I haven't seen that yet, but I would expect it's significantly up. So I think we're adding more to the bank account essentially with the enterprise fund than would have been budgeted, because we didn't budget on, we didn't predict that we would be seeing what essentially a record water consumption this last year, which also then produces more revenue than budgeted.
Okay.
The next item I wanted to mention, we talked about before, the fall crack sealing program. I want to mention that we are starting to do crack sealing tomorrow. Probably Wednesday and Thursday of this week will be completed. The streets that are prioritized are on this list that I gave to you, starting with a couple of short sections that we're finishing up that were left over from previous years. A small section of North Main Street, a small section of Water Street. And then the majority of the work happens a section on Millbrook, significant piece of Pleasant as you go up the hill off the Rotary, Pease Avenue as you're coming between Shaker and Lee, and then Summers Road, with the goal of finishing most of Summers Road. The way this contract works is we pay on a usage basis of gallons of crack sealing materials, so we spend the available budget up and get as much done as we can within the available budget. So it means that the total footage probably won't increase based on what you see here. We may not get all the way to the last item on this sheet. But again, it's typically meaning we're doing 3 to 4, maybe 5 miles in that range of crack sealing, typically twice a year, spring and fall. So we've added quite a bit over the past couple of years to what's crack sealed across the town.
So with that said, these are in some type of a priority?
Correct, yeah.
So if the last one doesn't get done, it's the least.
Correct. And with these, we really will have finished all the main streets that are at a level where crack sealing still makes sense.
Right.
Once they get so far degraded, like Kibbe Road, for instance, Kibbe Road at this point isn't worth making the investment. Denslow Road isn't worth making the investment in crack sealing. We'll likely be going to repaving on those streets as the next step, as opposed to crack sealing.
Do we, I'm making an assumption that the center is the most traveled portion of pavement in town, because 7 go to the Rotary, but do we take a look at the center every time we crack seal just to see if there's some areas to save that as long as possible? Or?
We finished crack sealing the center, I believe, this spring. So at this point, we should, next spring be looking at it again. Things do reopen every now and then. You see, some of the cracks either reopen or some of
I'm just wondering if we're that close to Center Square, does Roy take a look at the center and take an orange can or something and hit the 6 spots while they're driving around the center just to keep that center as long as possible? Just a thought.
Yep, good point. So see if there's any additional areas beyond what we show here. Yeah. I haven't noticed any, but to be honest, I haven't walked the entire center to make certain that there aren't. Next item I did want to mention is that we are bringing in Wallace Trees starting Thursday of this week to do some clearing, essentially behind the fire station, on what is actually formerly capped landfill area that we can then convert into processing and material storage area. So they're going to come in and over 2 days they're going to clear about a half an acre of land that we don't have to cap because it's already been capped. But in order to then convert it into processing and handling areas, we have to then come down and put down a barrier, or not a barrier, a witness layer, which is a snow fence layer essentially that we put down, and then hard pack on top of that as a protective layer, because we're starting to get real tight on space up at the transfer station. So that's going to open up about a half an acre of additional space by the mid to late of this fall. At the same time, Dan Murphy had mentioned, I believe the last meeting he was at, that we're looking at from a planning standpoint, taking a look at potentially pricing the clearing of about 2.5 acres of land that has to be cleared for the second phase of the landfill work, so that we'd be all set to go first thing in the springtime. We're going to take and see what that pricing looks like. We've got requests for quotes out there right now. We're getting into an area that had been treed even when it was landfilled. It was areas where dumping and landfilling took place in and amongst existing treated areas. So the trees are pretty significant in some of these places, more than we typically do with our own staff. Whereas the work that we did on the first phase of the landfill was, relatively young, mid-sized trees, not some of the larger ones that we would have to take down in the phase 2 area. So we're looking at that as an alternative, because we need to get in and get what we'd call phase 2A and phase 2B completed, I believe, by next December. So we want to make certain we have everything set up for that. I did want to mention that we have applied through our insurance company, through MIA, which is Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Agency, the insurance agency that represents most of the municipalities in the Commonwealth. Every year they put out grant opportunities. This year they put out a grant opportunity really focused on public works and public safety, with the idea of funding things that they would see would reduce risk and therefore, reduce potential exposure to an insurance company. And a couple of the things that they had targeted from a public safety standpoint was police department risk-related training. So we helped the police department with their piece of the grant application. And then two things that they had listed as potentially funding eligible that seemed to make sense from a public works standpoint is conducting a tree inventory in public streets, going through and really, not only counting but assessing what you have in public streets and public ways, so you have a better understanding of what's there, what condition it's in, so you can conceivably proactively maintain it and manage it before a problem happens, which ultimately reduces exposure to the insurance company. The other aspect that we've applied for funding for is they are big proponents of maintenance management systems because it helps to streamline and expedite responses. For instance, during emergencies, it helps to streamline and expedite pothole repairs and things like that, where residents can come in and, online report issues that need to be taken care of, and those issues can then get pushed right out to a mobile platform. So we're actually looking for funding to pay the cost of the first year of our maintenance management system that Mike Warner's working on. And because of that, we're actually, the turnaround for the grant is only like a week or two, so we'll put some of those activities on hold, waiting to see whether or not we receive the grant. If we do, we'll move ahead full speed. If we don't, we'll still move ahead, but we'll move ahead without the benefit of the grant. See, the last item I had, we had talked a meeting or two ago regarding the site visit we had from the Department of Labor Services, and they had issued a report that required us to address a number of relatively small facility improvements, some grounding issues, a fire extinguisher that needed access cleared, a couple of handrails, things like that. And Bruce and Bruce's staff have addressed all the facility improvements that needed to be taken care of. They also required us to put in place a number of different things, which as I step back and I look at it, was actually a good thing. As the state starts to focus more and more on municipalities and improving the safety practices of municipalities, so we were required to develop what's known as a personal protection PPE, personal protective equipment, a PPE assessment. We sat down and we took a look at the 6 major different areas that we do work in: the water pumping stations, the wastewater pumping stations, working on roads, working within the garage, and have come up with an assessment of each one of those areas, what the appropriate level of PPE is for those. That we'll be sitting down with the guys and working them through that and training them on that to improve our hazard awareness and our safety activities. We also were required to put together, have always had a plan, but put together a formal written lockout tagout plan, so formal written fire protection plan. So again, I think the overall, the good thing is that we, this kind of highlighted highlighted and required us to put some energy and some focus on putting some of these plans together and then putting these plans in practice, which I think is a good thing. So they were all put together. They were submitted to the state yesterday in advance of the deadline, and at this point, we're moving forward with implementation.
So the municipality doesn't fall under OSHA, but
Yeah, not yet.
but I mean, so are these guys aren't required for anything like an OSHA 10 or?
They're not required. We have, although we are sending 2 of our foremen to OSHA 10 training in a couple of weeks through our insurance company. They provide free training, so we're sending a couple of the guys there again to heighten their awareness so they can heighten people around their awareness as well. But the state does have regulations that are OSHA-like, and they historically really haven't pushed them out very much to municipalities, but they are starting to do that now. And that was really one of the reasons why they wanted to come into our facility, take a look at it, identify things that they felt that we could improve. They've actually been very good to work with, the gentleman that came in, so I look at it as all being positive. So we don't have to comply with OSHA, but we have to comply with very similar requirements like OSHA.
But I mean, if we're gonna send 2 foremen, I mean, why wouldn't we like slowly get everybody done?
Yeah, I think that would be good. What I'm actually looking at is there's a Western Mass Safety Council that provides training, looking at bringing one of their people in maybe for a half day to do just kind of a general awareness, really tailored to what we do. They have I haven't seen the overall menu of topics that they present, but they're going to give me a list of all the topics, and we'll pick and choose and say, okay, this one is relevant, that one's relevant. We don't do any of this, so we don't need training in that area. And at least try to expose everybody to some level of training. And then probably as time allows, get more and more people trained with OSHA 10, even though we're not required to do so.
Yeah, it's just if they're opened up to it and
Yeah.
they see it over and over again, it just kind of keeps clicking.
And it's all for their benefit, and that's one of the reasons we're sitting down with union reps later this week, is explaining this is all good things that we're doing for your benefit, really, if that's what it's really, we're doing it. Not to what? You know, some people may perceive it, look and try to catch people or make my life more difficult for staff, but it's really to get them doing what they should be doing, what we should be doing, to make certain that they can get the work done, but get it done safely.
So you have a heads up. I used to be the treasurer and a board member of Western Mass Safety. It's now Western New England Safety Council, and my safety director, Sandy Gagner, is on the board of directors. I think you know Sandy, right? Mm-hmm. You're more than welcome to come down. You know, just call her up or call me up and come down. We have just about every piece of safety, anything, developed. So if you want to just talk to her about how to do this, or even borrow a copy of ours to use it as templates or whatever. If you're all set, great. But otherwise, we got all kinds of PPE and even job hazard analysis. So we have JHAs. Yeah. So before you go do a water project, you actually take the job and you study it for hazards, and then you say, okay, so this is going to have this kind of hazard. We need to have this kind of equipment. We need to have our whatever pieces of equipment, cones, safety equipment. So she's got a ton of knowledge and direct contacts to everybody at Safety Council of Western New England. So feel free to reach out and check in with her.
Thank you. And with that, that's all I have today.
Building manager's report.
I only have a few items for the board this evening, obviously based on what we've been doing for the last week with some of those safety requirements and everything else. We've been busy doing those types of things. But anyways, heating's been up and running for a couple of weeks now. No major issues throughout the district. We did have a couple leaky pumps, circulator pumps over at Birchland Park and at the high school. The one at Birchland Park's been rebuilt, back in service, working well. We do have another one over at the high school, boiler room 2, waiting for a rebuild kit, and that'll be probably in by the end of the week, and then we'll get that pump up and running. Luckily, we have a redundant system over there, so we just turn off one pump, isolate that pump, and turn on the other pump. So we'll be doing that in the near future. Town Hall renovation, Phase 2, will be starting next week. We are already a week behind. I was supposed to start this week, but obviously with the early voting and everything else, we kind of gotten kicked out of that space, so we'll be starting next week. On Monday, we'll be moving all the furniture, file cabinets, tables, chairs, everything out of the meeting room. On Tuesday, Bide will be coming in to start the abatement process, the ceilings, the floors, everything that goes along with that. And that'll probably be a 3-day event. Get in there, set up their containment, day 2, do the abatement, day 3, get the clearances and all that stuff. So that'll be ongoing until probably roughly March. Another item for the board this evening, we have been, myself and Roy and staff have been putting together plows, plow blades, everything else. We do have 6 drop-in sanders. Well, we've been working on 6 drop-in sanders for the last week. We have 4 installed. We have 2 left to do repairs on. A lot of them are just bearings, front bearings on the drop-in sanders, but those and those repairs should be completed by the end of the week. We're also replacing some chains on some of the units, but by week's end we should be all ready to go. All the salting and sanding equipment will be operational and ready for snow. And that's all I have for you.
Right.
I'll talk about Shaker and Chestnut. So as we wanted to plan out, it all worked, like fairly well. We were able to get in there, turn the catch basin that was there, which was like a Connecticut top, into a flat top. We were able to relocate the curb up to the pole and get that all paved, so it's ready, it's in use. And while we're waiting for National Grid to move the pole, Tony went down to Shaker and Maple Court. Did an excellent job down there. You had a chance to see that come out. Incredible. Fix the catch basin, put the curb in, put a curb on the backside for the water to flow out. We're just going to add a delineator right when you're coming in from Maple Court, just to show where that curb is. And so when it's snowing out or something, you'll have a reflector piece on it. So
You don't want to put a stop sign there?
it's in order to to do that, it's got to be okay by the state, the police, and it's just you just can't like throw one in.
Okay.
Because if someone got a ticket or something, it's not illegal. So by putting a delineator in there, it's going to do the same thing. It will show where that curb is. When truck drivers are coming.
Just a little piece of perforated steel with a reflector.
Yeah, it's a metal post, comes up maybe 4 feet, and it's got maybe a 2 by 6 inch reflectorized
Yeah, I know what you're
piece of metal on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so while Tony was getting that, they moved the pole, and we're able to go back, and now we're working on the curb now. He should have the curb all done by tomorrow, and we got concrete coming in the afternoon. So once that's done, we'll be able to pave it and then do the pavement markings and get that all set. And then the contractor's going to do the rest.
That looks good there.
So that worked out very well. Tom Pope, the hydrant parts finally came in for Wood Avenue and North Main, so we got that hydrant back up and running. But it seems that we had 2 more hit and runs. We had one get hit on Markham and another one hydrant got hit on 28 Deer Park. So we're going to have to dig those up and fix those. We're doing pretty well on water sewer services. We'll just have 2 more left. All the irrigation has all been shut off and winterized. All the cemeteries and the bubblers are all off. The markouts are still coming in, so we're keeping up with that, and of course, the meter readings. Steve has done a great job on catch basins. I'm proud to say they're all fixed, as we know of. So all the catch basins, and that hasn't happened in a while where we've actually caught up on that.
It's good to get that done before we get into winter.
Yeah, so those are all fixed, and he started on the manhole repairs now. and there's some that were hit with plows, we're gonna be paving there. I have them doing, since it's been so dry, there's some culverts
Thank you.
that we're digging out and cleaning out that are badly needed, that are dry, so we're able to get those done. And Steve's also started on some brush and tree cleaning.
The one on the end of Harvest Circle at all?
I keep looking at that. It's still running, believe it or not.
Really?
Even in the driest part of the summer, I went there and water still trickling there. And I just can't believe that runs that long. If that was to dry, we'd shoot right over there.
Yeah.
And of course on Alice Street, it's running also.
Right.
But there's some areas I've checked that are completely dry. We already did one on Prospect. So there's areas I find that are bad and dry. We're going to head over there and take care of it.
Makes sense.
Daryl, doing the backflow. He's been working at the transfer station, as you know, where it's in peak of leaf season now. So we're able to find 2 areas for them to dump the leaf. So that's working out pretty well. So we'll be working on that and the clearing. So we're taking care of that. As soon as I got the okay on the salt shed, we were able to start it rolling, so that's completely full now. And now we're going to be getting in some sand. We're going to mix up some sand with the salt, so we'll have sand for ballast, and for the sandbox we'll be putting out. As Bruce was saying, we're on top of getting the sanders on the trucks. I was able to, talking with Bob, we sent out a tree bid list. So that went out yesterday, so we should get that back fairly soon and get that squared away. And then when they're done, we'll clean up the mess. So that's good to get done. For the future, tomorrow we're going to meet with for the town hall. We're working with Bruce on the fire. We're putting in a 6-inch fire line, in the building. At the same time, we're going to replace the hydrant out front and possibly bring a new domestic line in there. We're also, in the future, we're going to be doing some more sewer cammering, cleaning, catch basin, tree removal, culvert. And also, Steve's going to be making a berm for the winter use. And the last thing I have is we're going to be probably next week, and we hit a warm evening, we'll be doing the pavement markings on Chestnut Street as you're coming up the hill. We'll be doing that with reflectorized bead and see how that looks. And that's all I have.
2 other things I meant to add. One is something we've been teamed up with Chief DeLessier about regarding speed control on some of the residential streets. Number of streets an issue. One that's come to mind lately is Rural Drive, for instance, where it's a cutoff for Parker, and residents have complained quite a bit. And so we're actually looking at a portable post-mounted radar sign that can be installed in one of our street signs below the speed limits, below the posted speed limit, put in place, left there for a couple of weeks. Police department can enhance the traffic control and the speed detection in that area and try to get people to start modifying some of their behavior. But it locks to the signpost, and then it can be picked up and moved to another signpost where there's other issues in town.
Oh, okay.
It's been a number of years, I think, since they've tried to integrate that. See if we can. It's all driver's behavior, and you can put in speed bumps, you can put in speed limit signs, but it seems like the radar enforced signs, the ones that are really the most effective, that kind of cause people to look. And so it's something where we've actually agreed to split the cost between the police department and the DPW. It's a sign typically we carry, but it's really public safety and speed limit enforcement as well. So we're kind of teaming up on that approach, and we're going to see how effective that might be. The other item is Roy was talking about getting ready for the winter. We have gone to the plow routes. We are making some changes relative to staff assignments, partly preparing for what we believe is going to be retirement of Mr. Savini, most likely partway through the season. So Steve right now is assigned, and has been for a number of years, assigned the blue plow route. We have Daryl Keene, who's a foreman now, has actually filled in for Steve multiple times when Steve was on vacation in his crew, so that as Steve works to retirement, Daryl will be positioned to kind of step into the, taking over the plow route at that point. So again, kind of looking ahead, so we're prepared for it. We don't lose a beat throughout the wintertime. We're also taking one gentleman as well, Mr. Goodwin, and we're now going to be assigning him, I think, to what will ultimately help the police department and fire department in putting him in one of our smaller pickup mounted plows and having him really responsible for maintaining those facilities throughout the storm, to kind of better fit his capabilities to what our needs are at this point. So every year we take a look at plow routes, staff assignments. We try to match the people to what the needs are, and those are two changes that we're making this year.
The good thing is our two newest employees have plowed before, so they're already experienced. One was in another town, one for the military and so forth. So I'll be able to move them like right into those positions. Just kind of bring them around with a person that's familiar with the route, so they'll understand where the plow. So it's all good.
Sounds good.
Who's going to be in charge of the plow routes? You?
Yeah, we're kind of a team here.
Bruce will backstop Roy, but it's Roy's primary responsibility, and then when Roy can't do it any longer.
Well, Mark used to do it, right?
Mark used to do it, the maps.
Yeah.
Oh, dispatch.
Dispatch.
Who's going to do dispatch up?
Well, I'm going to have the foreman be the dispatcher for their own crews, and then they'll work through me. So if I get a call, I'll work, I'll see how it works, but they'll be responsible.
Because they used to call in and we'd check up because streets just forgot how you forget a street when you're.
We did that at the end of last year. We actually took the dispatcher out of the office because I think we were short-staffed too. And it seemed to work well, making the foreman kind of responsible for their whole route, checking the route and everything else. And it seemed to work last year, so we said, why have a body sitting in an office? And
I think that might be a better approach altogether.
Yeah, the foreman knows their
We
route.
weren't doing it before. That's the problem. Because they've been doing it for years, and all of a sudden streets weren't being done. And if a guy has a route, he should know that I do these 4 streets, and how do you forget one?
I know.
We still have the sheets, but what we've done is we've broken them down on a foreman basis, and each foreman will have their own sheet for every storm event, and it'll be Roy looking over the foreman to make certain that they're staying on top of their assigned staff.
Each foreman will have their own list. The guys can call into their own foreman and mark them off. So I can call the foreman at any time and see what streets are available.
Well, if it isn't done, why?
Yeah, right. So, but people will still be calling again, so I can check with any foreman and see what still has to be done and so forth at any time.
I like that.
I think that's a better approach myself.
I think it helps accountability as well, working up the chain of command.
The only problem I see when I plow is we seem to go on Summers Road all the way up to Hamden Road, and we stop and we go down Hamden Road, and we don't go all the way to the state line. And I just think when we're there, we should go all the way down to the state line and get that main opened up, because it takes forever. Plus you get drifting along the flats there and everything else, so it needs a little more attention. It doesn't seem to.
To hit all of Summers Road first and then head down Hamden.
then come back down the other side and then go down.
I'll look into
You got
that.
that momentum going, I would think. You'd want to keep.
And you're doing it in tandem. You got your 3 guys there, go all the way to the
Go to the state
line.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. That's a good, I know we used to do that on Prospect Street too. So,
Get the main all the way down.
yeah, that's a good
Then they
point.
break off and they go in their own areas, but
Yeah, get the
there's a
main
lot of
open.
drifting in that area there.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
No, it's a good idea, Dave.
Does this street sweepers run 37 and a half hours a week? Is that out every day running?
We did all the streets once, and then we did some of the mains like a couple times. We don't really have it out now. There's a lot of leaves down, And, you know, we can put it out again, I just don't have it out right now.
And it's winterized. We winterized it last week. Just we can't have water in it, obviously.
There a particular area that
I'm
concerns you
just
just
seeing
in
a
general?
ton of leaves near catch basins. And so if it rains a little, freezes a little, then we end up with all kinds of water and crusty and ice, and so I just didn't know. Probably doesn't have a lot of capacity for leaves, right?
Yeah,
Leaf fills up faster.
leaves will fill up faster, like dirt, yeah.
It's just a question. I don't know. I just see a lot of. I didn't know if. So I was going to bring up maybe do the guys who have the roots, the foremen who have the roots, do they go around maybe anytime now during leaf season and look for these bad clogged leaves? You know, some neighbors clean up the street,
Right, yeah.
and other neighbors put it on the street. So I know we can't do too much about, you know, going after them to go clean up the street, but do we need to just so we don't end up with?
Yeah, if we have foul weather coming, or rain, I'll send the guys out on their routes, each, you know, and they know the low areas, and they'll clean those basins.
All right.
Yeah, that's definitely something to do.
And usually around this time of year too, or usually after the leaves all fall down, sometimes we get the crews together for all the plow routes. They go and check the routes for low branches and all that stuff. So that's kind of coming up as far as.
And we've never really owned, I'm going to say, a vacuum on a dump truck like you see landscapers have. Do we have one of those?
We have one we use for leaf pickup.
We actually just
we
got
do
that
have-
resurrected this year. We haven't used it in a few years.
So I guess I'm wondering, maybe do some foremen do their routes, call in, and then where there's a pile of leaves that somebody didn't clean up near catch basins or something, do we shoot that truck out periodically to go catch that stuff? You know, obviously don't want the neighbors to think we're going to be Long Meadow and suck the whole town, but I don't know, it was just a thought.
Yeah, we're probably a week to 2 weeks late on leaves. It's been a fun year.
Yeah.
Some trees are down, there are some trees that are still
We
holding.
haven't had a whole lot of rain, and that usually knocks them off.
We're keeping up pretty good on the leaf pickups. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not falling all at once. We're doing the park once a week, and it's not all, like I said, it's not all at once. It's been pretty good.
So everything's good. I've had a lot of good comments too about the ball field, so. The heat field and the skinned field. Much more positive than I anticipated we would have, so.
Yeah, I was talking with Tom Anderson about that, especially the new clay fields, as to maybe think about getting a tarp out there for the winter season. I don't know if it's needed or not, but actually cover up some of those expensive clay areas entirely.
I was talking to a couple of baseball people. They said they're draining like incredibly well compared to before.
Yeah.
So
We get low spots here and there from grooming and stuff that we need to address, but yeah.
Come springtime, we'll need to get the grader back out in center field and
Yeah.
kind of move everything back up into the center where it belongs. Because it just tends to spread out over the season.
awesome. Take a look.
Well, we got to schedule next meeting
yeah.
for Tuesday, November 15th, 5 o'clock at the Service Building. Now motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
In favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We adjourn.